right, 3 bars. I don't know why it says 15 degrees because it's 32 degrees. All right, 2 kilowatt Vevor heater. Just clicked it on. We're gonna use the controller time because it's easier since I just clicked the battery in. It says it's noon, so we'll use that as our base. It says 19 degrees. Started at 15 degrees just a second ago, but it's really 32 outside. We'll see how long it takes to get to 70. And since the outlet is pointed almost directly at the controller, I'm gonna put this here just to get a more accurate reading. Don't mind the trash. 5 minutes in, heater's really just starting to plug away, and we're at 28 degrees. Another 5 minutes, another 10 degrees. I'm gonna try not to open the door each time so I don't affect the test. 5 more minutes, up to 46. Another 10 minutes now, up to 57 degrees. 10 more minutes, up to 64. All right, another 10 minutes. It's been a total of 45 minutes. We are at 70 degrees. Now, I can already hear the comments. Everyone's gonna say, oh, it took you 45 minutes to get the car up to 70. But you have to figure, normally the heat's blowing about 6 inches from the dash onto your toes or the dash up onto the windshield. But with the heater all the way back there and where I had the controller placed here, we're about 6 feet away and obviously not directly pointed at the controller. So my next plan is to get a splitter. I'm gonna drop that 2.5 inch pipe down to 2 1.5 inch. That shouldn't really restrict airflow. But with those 2 1.5 inch, I'll probably run one directly up to the windshield and another directly to my toesies. So I'm not quite sure the route I'll take, but I really don't want to cut into any more of this car than I already have. I'll probably come straight over the back seats, run one kind of up between the seat to my footwell, and then another one I might go up and around and just point it along the windshield, because sure, that did defrost the windshield after 45 minutes, but if I can focus that heat directly on the windshield and directly on my feet, I will not need to crank this thing for, well, almost 50 minutes now to get to 71 degrees in the areas that I need. If just the footwell and just the windshield are seeing that probably 100 degree air, I can probably set it to a much lower setting than 96 degrees and just leave it on about 70. And that heater will run at a much more casual rate, as you can hear it slow right down once it's matched the temperature. But then again, this is the reason I went with the 2 kilowatt, is so I could run it at its hottest and cleanest. Because from my findings, if you run these things at idle all day long, they will get carbon buildup on the inside, so it's actually really good for them to run them at max. So So every day I do run it, I will be cranking it for at least a 20-minute period, just to make sure everything's clean internally. They're also much more efficient than the 5 and the 8s. And I specifically ordered the kit that comes with the external tank because I will fill the tank much less than the ones that are all boxed in with a smaller tank. And after 50 minutes of running, my 8 amp hour battery went down 1 bar. So, assuming that it was a full 3 bars, I'll probably run it for another hour just to put this thing through its paces and see if it drops another bar, or if it's just a false reading and we were at, let's say, 2.5 bars. And now that the controller is up on the headrest, more in line with the outlet of the heater, we're an hour in at 77 degrees. So the air from about here up is probably in the 80s, and then from here down is probably in the 60s, we'll say. Because my feet are pretty cold up here, but once I route that ducting up to my footwell, I think the air will circulate much better through the car, and it will be an even 70 as opposed to 80 and 60.